Good evening. It is 5:15 on this Monday, February 13th, and the Carroll City Council is now in session. Would you all please rise and join with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. We've had taken roll call. Okay, we have tonight's consent agenda in front of us, and it includes, I'll just read it from the top, approval of the minutes of the January 23rd meeting, approval of bills and claims. We have 3 license permits as follows: renewal of a Class C beer permit with Class B wine permit and Sunday sales for Dollar General. Renewal of Class E liquor license with Class B wine permit and Class C beer permit and Sunday sales for Walmart. And a new Class C liquor license, an 8-month license with outdoor service and Sunday sales for Golf Services LLC. We also have an appointment to the Library Board of Trustees, and that is Keith Cook, a 6-year term to expire December 31st of 28. We have infill housing applications. We also have application for tax abatement under the Urban Revitalization Plan for Jason Lamberts and Dana Canny. We also have a standard agreement for consulting services with McClure Engineering and the Carroll softball fields retaining wall. And then we also have a resolution in there to change the July 24th council meeting to July 25th due to RAGBRAI. Is there any questions or comments about tonight's consent agenda? And if not, I would seek a motion to approve.
So moved.
Tom?
Second.
Seconded by Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Item number 4 on tonight's agenda is oral requests and communications from the audience. This is on anything that is not on tonight's agenda, and I'm seeing none and nobody online. So we.
Real quick, Laura, they said they can't hear any of the audio on Zoom.
Sorry, I thought I had it.
Oh, you just. You had unmuted me when you did that.
I know, but I'm like, if I don't unmute it, it's not gonna work. So hang on, I'm gonna leave the meeting. But it's. Oh, you're not plugged in, are you?
With what?
No, just that one.
Let's try that.
I don't know if this is gonna work. Okay, so now try unmuting.
I did unmute it. Can you hear us now, Nathan?
Brad?
Or Brad, excuse me.
Okay, so you're not showing.
No. I'm unmuted here.
I wondered if he's having issues, because we're showing we're unmuted. But before we were having the issues, we had it on mute. Okay,
Should we proceed for now?
yeah, I would say that's fine.
Okay, item number 5, we have no ordinances for approval tonight. Item number 6, we have resolutions, and the first one is the fiscal year '24 max property tax dollars. And Laura, do you want to just go into the public hearing first? Okay, let's go ahead and do that. I'm showing 5:20. We would go ahead and open the public hearing for the fiscal year '24 max property tax dollars. And Laura, I'd turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
you.
So a few years ago, the state had changed our budgeting process where we are required to have this public hearing for what's called the maximum property tax dollars. And this is, it does a comparison. Part of the agenda packet did have a comparison of the different levies that we're supposed to be looking at. They include, for which the city of Carroll is doing their comparison, is the 810, the liability, the tort liability levy, and the employee benefit. And you do a comparison of last year's numbers to what's being proposed for this year, and then if that's up or down for the year. Actually, this year, it is showing a decrease of 0.76% in property tax dollars being requested from last year. So this is based upon the budget that we had discussed back in January. Now, what we're finding out, or what we're learning, is the state is looking at changing part of this budget information where they're looking at changing the rollback from 56.49% to 54.65%, which is a decrease of about 1.8%. And we're waiting for the legislature to either officially approve that change or it's going to die. I guess what we're being told from the people that we have contacts at the state is more than likely it'll get passed this week. So if that's the case, then that'll affect our taxable valuation that we've been working with all along, and we will have to figure out what we want to do. If council wants to keep the same tax dollars being requested, that is possible. Our levies above, or how we get to the levy number, would just get adjusted accordingly. The only one that would not get adjusted is the 810 because we're at that max. That's the highest you can go. So if the new rollback gets put into place, less taxable valuation, less tax dollars would be generated from the 810 levy. So that would be a haircut, so to speak, no matter what. As for the other levies, those could be adjusted to whatever levy would need to get the dollars that are being requested, or staff could, if council wanted staff to do this, would look at different ways we could cut expenditures to come up to a lower tax asking dollar amount. But for tonight, what we're being advised by the state to continue along with your budget process. Since we know this is the budget that we discussed, this would be the maximum property tax dollars that the city of Carroll would be requesting. At any point during this process, we can always lower that tax asking, but this is the maximum. So we can get this step done and through this budget process and approve this. And then when we hear more about what the rollback is going to do, we can make some more decisions after that. So that's kind of an update on where that, I thought the House was supposed to be discussing this legislation today. I haven't heard any more of what's gonna, or if they officially approved it or not, or when they were gonna.
I think there's a hearing in the Senate again on 11 o'clock on Thursday, if I read it correctly. And I'm not quite sure why that is, because the House is the one that's still.
Yeah, I thought the Senate 2 weeks ago had passed their version of the bill had passed 49-0. And then the House was working through their process, and I thought they were supposed to be debating it today, but.
Some Ways and Means Committee has a meeting scheduled for 11 a.m. Thursday.
Oh, okay. So that's news to me. Well, if they do change this rollback number, part of the legislation as we know it right now would extend the budget filing deadline to April 30th instead of March 31st. So they would give us a little bit more time to work through this process. But we're, at least at this point, the state, the people at Department of Management are telling us, continue on with your budgeting process until you hear differently. So at least we can take this step, because we know if the levy is, or excuse me, not the levy, if the rollback is not changed, this would be the maximum property tax dollars that the city of Carroll would request. If the rollback does get changed, we can always lower that tax asking dollar amount at a later date before we officially approve the final budget. Because we're we are approving the tax dollars, not the levy. We're approving the tax dollars being requested.
Thank you. Yeah, Laura's, we've talked about this so doggone much the last 2 weeks, and Jeff too. They're tired of me asking the dumb questions, so I promise not to ask a whole lot of them tonight. But I did see where the Senate, or I'm sorry, the House is going to take it up early next week. So I would say as early as Monday. So it looks like it's moving forward. So I've had conversations with Senator Schultz. I've had conversations with Representative Best, and I've also had conversations with the governor's office. And all of them have been very polite and listening. But, you know, Brian offered at least, well, Jason offered an apology, and Brian offered probably a little bit more in terms of sympathy. But for the most part, it looks like it's going to move forward. So you guys have, you know, been following this along on your own too, and Jeff's done a good job with Laura getting the information out to you guys. But you know, the only bone they threw us is they're going to extend it out to April 30th, which, you know, jeepers, thanks a lot. But needless to say, it really has been up to Jeff and Laura that's really done yeoman's work on all of this stuff and
And I
keep
think
us
the only
informed.
amendment between the House and Senate versions was the extension, wasn't it?
That's my understanding.
So I don't
Yes.
think there'll be much, if the House does pass it right away, I can't imagine there's gonna be much slowing it down, but.
Yeah.
It was just unfortunate that this change to the rollback came so late in all cities' budgeting processes. I would venture to guess we're not the only city this far down the path of working through our budgets. So now we're trying to figure out what to do and what this total impact will be to our budget. Because we won't know that stuff until we get those taxable valuations from the county auditors. And once the state passes, if the state passes this, they give the county auditors, I believe it's like 15 days to do their work so that we can get new updated taxable valuations. So we've been in contact with our county auditor, and she's well aware of everything going on, and she has promised us that, and she'll work her darndest to get those numbers turned around as quickly as she can if we get that final word from the state, or I should say when we get that final word from the state that the rollback is changing or has changed. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern a little bit, but if it doesn't change for whatever reason, this is the maximum tax dollars that we would request based upon the budget that we discussed in January.
You haven't received any public comments
No public
at
comments.
all? Okay. Anybody else? Anything from the public? Any other questions for Laura or Jeff? Anything else to add?
Not to complicate matters anymore, but I will just throw out there is other property tax reform legislation that is being discussed right now. We're trying to learn what that means. It seems the league sent out, and the league does have a webpage on their website that is devoted to the most recent Senate Study Bill 1124. And I just pulled it up literally 5 minutes before this meeting, and it'll take a little bit of time for me to try to devour it and what impact this really has on us. And this is not the only proposal, but I believe there's a couple other proposals, and the league is still trying to learn what they all mean and how this impacts all the cities as well. And so we're trying to keep up with it and learn what it means, but there might be other things that come about this legislative session as it relates to property tax reform.
Laura, has the,
I don't know, I don't think it'll affect this budget. However, it potentially could affect what we do with this budget would impact next year and going forward, because there might be some growth limitations placed in this new legislation.
Laura, has the state equalization order come out yet? It comes out in odd numbered years.
I
When
have
does
not
that come
heard.
out?
I'm not sure
I've been
when.
checking, I haven't found it.
It may not come out until later in the year, calendar year, so I'm not sure when those, but you're correct that this year would be a state equalization order for the 1/123 values.
Good, yeah.
One of them under consideration is local option.
I
Again,
know.
remember
We went around on
last
that
year,
a
remember?
couple years ago.
Yeah.
That's the bill
And-
immediately following, that's Senate Study Bill 1125.
Yeah.
I emailed every committee member,
Yeah.
and I think you need, if that happens again, we need to all step up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you guys have a chance to go to the Iowa League of City, it was iowaleague.org, I believe is the website, to look at some of these Senate study bills, and we can send some more information to you to direct you right there and read about what impact this could be on cities and overall.
Okay, anything else on this with the public hearing you want to disclose? So if
Just
there's,
looking for a motion to approve the resolution, which would be.
yeah, but we'll close the public hearing
Yes,
first, yeah.
yes.
I show 5:31. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and then we'll move forward. I would seek a motion to approve the resolution approving fiscal year '24 max property tax dollars. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Carolyn
Second.
and Kyle? Any further discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Fornero.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Space. Yes. Resolution is approved.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks again, Laura and Jeff, again and again and again. Item 6B is a Wellmark Matching Assets to Community Health Match Grant Program application for Merchants Park Improvement Project. Chad?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. The City of Carroll and Region 12 are working together to find funding for the Merchants Park Improvement Project. Although the Destination Iowa grant is still in review stages right now, we have identified another possible route to help us get to our ultimate funding goal for this project. The Wellmark Match Grant was located and fits all of our overall goals for this project. We would be seeking a grant in the amount of $100,000 with no change in the amount already pledged by the City of Carroll or any other local donors. So my recommendation is for the City of the Carroll City Council to approve the resolution endorsing the Wellmark Match Grant application in the amount of $100,000 for Merchants Park Improvement Project.
Is there timing on this?
There is, it is due, I believe, sometime later this week. We kind of just stumbled across it. It's a fairly well-known grant program. I don't know if we just didn't know if we would actually fit all the bullet points for it, but I think that was kind of the hindrance on applying early.
Okay.
Chris seemed to think that his team was ready to go, and most of the application was complete last week when I talked to him, so it's ready to go out, just pending council approval. As far as the turnaround time, I'm not 100% sure on it. I know it does open up twice a year, so you'd probably be looking July. I would figure that we'd hear something by.
Any other questions for Chad regarding this? If not, I'd seek a motion to approve the resolution endorsing the Wellmark Match Grant application in the amount of $100,000 for Merchants Park. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion for that.
Kyle?
Second.
I'll
You
second.
go ahead.
It sounds like Laverne. So a motion and a second for the council to approve the resolution endorsing Wellmark Match Grant application for Merchants Park, the amount of $100,000. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Space. Yes. Dirks.
Yes.
Fornero.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Perfect, thank you. Chad, you're still on deck.
Still on.
Yep, so the next item is Carroll Rec Center Improvement Project, change order number 4.
Excuse me. During construction at the Carroll Rec Center, unexpected items were discovered that needed to be addressed. This added work includes replacement of existing sanitary sewer piping that is in need of replacement that serves the pool sump pit. Elevator equipment room, designing an offset equipment room to allow all the needed equipment to be set in an adjacent room instead of altering the overall elevator shaft, which would have included larger footprint and alterations to the roof and HVAC. Cost is ASI number 10 would be cost is associated with removing existing transformer located in the mezzanine and replacing in another location. This transformer is out of code and needs replacement and moved to a new location. RFI 14 is rerouting the wiring of an existing air handling unit. It wasn't properly located since the existing wiring was fed up through cavity walls and through the flooring, and must be removed for the walking track area and the gymnasium joist, which is increasing the overall depth of the joist to allow for less deflection of the walking track. Currently, the walking track is scheduled to have a deflection of nearly 3 inches, which is maximum for that structure. The recommendation is to deepen the joist to allow for less than 1 inch of deflection. Change order number 4 is in the amount of $122,267 and has no change at this time in substantial completion date. If change order number 4 is approved, $125,718 will remain for the project. We also have Brad from RDG on the call, as well as Andy here to help answer any questions you may have. If there are no no questions, my recommendation is for the approval of change order number 4 in the amount of $122,267 for the Carroll Rec Center Improvement Project.
Brad, thanks for joining us. Andy, thanks for being here too. Andy was in, well, let's see, it was the 26th of January. And Laura and Jeff and myself and Chad, we all, and Nick Bating joined us that day too. And a lot of questions and a lot of answers. But the bottom line still remains is $122,000 worth of unexpected required changes. So I'm up to speed on it. You guys have any questions that you'd like a little bit more detail? Be my guest, please.
I did appreciate the breakdown, and I thought that was helpful. And I had a better understanding of the rationale. I think we'll get a good end result. 3 of them were existing old structures, so, I mean, it's just something we're having to deal with, so. But I did like that format. Thank you for requesting that.
Was the
Okay.
ability of getting this information out 2 weeks earlier very, helpful for everybody?
Definitely.
I thought the whole process was improved, Chad,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mark, you had made mention, or maybe it was Jeff, you said something about the walking track is also gonna be used as an observatory for,
Basketball
It
team.
can be, correct.
so how many people can fit up there and what's the allowed tolerance on it?
During our meeting, Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it'll hold 100 pounds per square foot.
That's what I remember also.
Yeah.
Is that a lot? Is that,
It's-
what's
it's
that
quite a
people
bit.
though? What is that for people?
They figure that's basically the stance of a person
Yeah.
as far as weight load.
Did Brad hear us, do you know?
I'm pushing 3.
Yeah. Brad, can you hear us at all? He sent me a text message that said he could hear us through everything.
Brad, are you with us?
Anything in the chat by chance? No.
No.
You would see it, yeah.
I thought he was pretty quiet.
I wonder if he's having technical difficulties on his side.
Everything looks good here.
Chad, how far along would you say we're at in the project-ish?
I think 40%.
That's a pretty good number, yeah. They're putting tile up, plumbing fixtures showed up today for the family change rooms. I mean, they're moving right along.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot more tile once they get into the women's locker room, but they're larger tiles, so they go in pretty well.
Right.
Yeah. It seemed to take quite a while during the deconstruction portion of it, but I mean, they've been throwing up walls left and right. A lot of the plumbing is completely done, just waiting on fixtures. Yeah, it's moving along very well. I believe Nick said that they are a hair ahead of schedule on a lot of things, which is obviously good. But, that could change with any second of delivery of something or delayed delivery of something.
What is completion date?
October 20th of this year.
So to your point, Misty, I mean, I think we had some discussion that day. I looked at my notes. I didn't jot it down, but I do recall them saying we're about 40% complete, but we're well over 40% of our contingency. And so the question that I asked is this, all right, now moving forward with what yet needs to be done, where might we expect some of these? And I didn't get a real clear answer on that, but you recall anything specific? I mean, just the notes that I made was unknown. He said the men's locker room and the track was essentially,
Yeah.
but that's all, it still needs to be done yet too.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, and that's more in the happenstance that, you know, they come across something that they didn't know about or,
yeah.
you know, anything like that.
Then the elevators left.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hopefully we've addressed the biggie in the elevator
Yeah.
with this one.
I've been going down each week and kind of monitoring the progress, and was down there today, and where the elevator shaft is going to be, they've dug down, what, 6, 8 feet?
5 feet.
And exposed the sanitary sewer line that comes from the girls' locker room, that they have to relocate that starting next week, did they
Next
say?
Tuesday, yep.
Yeah,
I mean, they didn't think it was gonna take more than 4 hours, so there will be some time where basically the southwest drains
And
of
that
any
date's-
sort, but
That date's fluid, I didn't send you that yet, but that date's
Okay.
fluid now, his material's not all here, so.
yeah, so we're trying to keep ahead of it, putting up signage, making sure we're giving them plenty of time, or our patrons plenty of time to know, hey, we're gonna have some bathrooms closed off, you may not be able to use some sinks, different things like that, well before the day that we know it's gonna happen.
A bit of silence that you don't hear as I'm just looking at my notes, see if there's anything else to add, but I think you guys covered it all pretty well. So any other questions we don't have Brad on yet at all. Any questions for Chad or Andy at all? If not, we need to move forward with the change order as per recommendation, so I would seek a motion to approve. Change order number 4 in the amount of $122,267 for the Carroll Rec Center Improvement Project.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Misty, seconded by Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Space?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
well, I'll go ahead and do the sign thing since
Yeah.
Kimberly and.
Sure, okay. Okay, we are going to move ahead on the schedule with item C, under item 7C, and that is the Central Business District signs. And Randy, I'll turn that over to you to start.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
The city has received a request to remove the Central Business District business signs that are currently mounted to the streetscape light poles. Those signs were included, or they were proposed as part of the original 2003 Corridor of Commerce Master Plan. And then as they were constructed, along with each applicable phase of the Corridor of Commerce Plan. They're maintained in cooperation with the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber inventories the businesses every 6 months and gets that inventory to the city, and then we have the signs made and placed. So every 6 months, due to business changes, those signs are updated. We have provided to you the historical expenditure for those signs. It's varied widely year to year for the past 16 years, but it averages about $1,250 a year for sign changes, bracket maintenance, all miscellaneous maintenance on that. Unless there are any questions, I would recommend your consideration of this request.
Very good, thank you, Randy. Carolyn, would you like to
Well,
lead off the discussion?
I just.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Vicki and I started going around thinking about what we have ahead of us this summer. And we started, paying more attention to the signs. You walk by things, you quit looking at them. I've had complaints over the years that they look old, they look dated, some are faded, some are bright, the font is so little, but, they're blocking, our rationale we put down here. And then we thought with all the baseball, then we found out about Ragbri. We thought this needs some refreshing, and it's really cluttered. Again, for all the reasons I put down here, I believe Vicki and Kimberly have some comments. As they just need to go. And even the Corridor 2.0 said, hey, your downtown needs to be refreshed. They mentioned the signs, they're faded, they've served their purpose. So anyway, I'm not gonna read the list. You've all probably read it, or you can skim it now, and I just believe that removing the brackets as well as the yellow signs would enhance the downtown, clean it up. We'd be putting our best face forward as we welcome guests this summer. And I think long-term, they've served the purpose. The brackets, the yellow signs need to come down. If you go through the parts of downtown area that don't have the yellow signs, it really enhances the look, the lighting, et cetera. Just cleans it up, makes it much more attractive than these that really, in my opinion, serve no purpose. So, I know if you ladies want to weigh in.
Name, rank, and serial number.
Kimberly Tiefenfeller. And not here speaking on behalf of the businesses, because I haven't talked to any of the businesses, so I just want to make that very clear. And mostly just speaking on behalf of myself and some photos. And I do have copies of these if you would like to see them. So if you want to see them, I can certainly hand those out.
Thank you.
Are they all the same photo?
Yeah.
Kimberly, I just wondered if you could put one underneath the thing.
But I really didn't realize how cluttered our downtown was with signage until Live and Local. And, we got to looking, and, during Live and Local, we had plenty of time to stand around, listen to the bands, look at the crowd, and be happy about how many people are downtown. And through being downtown and looking at the signs during that time period, and then during when Ashley takes photos, that really, when we look at the photos, that tells a story of, and especially that line that you see of the signs, and just the sheer number of signs that we have, and then look at all the different colors that we have. And then that's when we really started looking at the signs and thinking, wow, we do, oops, I moved that, sorry. We do have a little bit of an issue here, trying to keep up with replacing signs and the colors and things like that. And, if the signs are placed right in front of the stores, I'm not sure that they really serve the purpose as wayfinding signs if they're directly in front of the store that you're going into. So I'm not really sure that they serve that purpose. And sometimes, you put up a sign and not very much longer after that, it's already outdated or what have you. And you do have that problem of keeping up with that as businesses change. So, times change. And right now we're in a time period where a really clean look, clean lines, and a very clean look is really what is in. And so I guess I would just encourage us to think about that, and think about maybe letting the business owners their own logos and their own sign frontage, their own signage, be what we're really looking at and focusing on, and not that whole line of signage that we've put up back in the day, so to speak, that we're having a hard time matching yellows and things like that. So other than that, that's really all the input that I have. I think it's just, it appears that it's become kind of a hard thing to match colors, and I'm sure it is. You know, things fade, nothing stays the same. It's hard to match yellows and such. So I think we probably, everything has a season of time, and I think it might be a good time to take the brackets down and take the signs down and move on and go with a more clean look, and focus on the storefronts and the logos of the businesses and the signage that they have.
And Kimberly, have you heard, I've had a couple business owners that aren't on Adams Street tell me, without the signs, that, as you said, people individualize their businesses. And they've said, without all this clutter, you really notice, like, to me, the artworks, all the bright colors, you know, you can tell it's the artworks, that it's big, large fonts, you notice it. The Avila Bank has big letters, then we have this little yellow sign with a tiny, I mean, we know it's Avila, we know it's City Hall, we don't need the sign outside of City Hall. But these business owners said to me, Carroll has a real boutique-y vibe, that, you know, and the individualization that where people choose their signage is what people, I think that's what you're saying, that's what's in right now.
Their own individual
Yeah.
logos and things like that,
Yeah,
right?
so, thank you,
That
yeah,
makes it unique.
yeah,
Right.
so that's been reinforced.
Is the thought to keep at least the sign that says Carroll downtown or whatever that is, or is everything coming off? Do you see what I'm saying?
So Kimberly, like outside the mall entrance, there's a pole that's got signage on it and then a Carroll.
This one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What will happen with that pole? Because there's no light or anything on that.
Right, you know, the Carroll, I mean, I guess my personal, again, this is my personal opinion. My personal opinion is the red on a yellow background isn't the best choice, but I'd like to see it different. I'd like to see us look into that, and see that be different than red on a yellow background. I don't think Carroll with the downtown is, that one sign in and of itself is bad at all. I think it's all the other ones going down the street.
Yeah, and that's mentioned in this memo, because Roseanne brought that up too. Maybe keep the two signs at the walkway between the malls and on the west side of Westgate Mall. And keep it, and then just clean up this mess. That's my word.
My next question would be, I mean, I'm okay, I would be on board with taking them down as well, because I agree. My question would be, I just want to make sure maybe we don't throw the brackets away,
No,
just
no.
because I don't know if we would use them again, or we would be able to sell them to another city or
Yeah.
whatever, but I know it would be a storage issue, and nobody likes that, but, you know, things change and it might come back to us, or we want to use them another time in another location.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate we'd get rid of the brackets. But,
Well, that's what we think, but we don't know where
yeah,
they'll put
but
them.
we would take the brackets down, but sometimes what you store never gets used too.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
Right.
We'll leave that to Randy.
I think
whatever.
it's time as well.
I think I was counting maybe 4 different colors of yellow there.
Yep.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's like,
My only concern on
Could be
this,
hard.
my only concern on this is we have no feedback from the businesses. If, you know, if the businesses want it down, I don't have any problem with that, but if some of the businesses want it up and we haven't even asked them what they want, that's an issue for me.
I will respond to that. As we went through, well, this started under Ed Smith, and then I came on, so I've been through quite a few of the phases. We've done 10, we're, you know, not dealing with 11. As we did our phases, we dealt with them as a council and did not poll people or bring people in or have even a, you know, like a session. We dealt with it because we just did. We worked with the architect. We've never done that for any of the other phases, Laverne. The streetscape, we looked at the diagrams, worked with the architect, and moved on with the streetscape. This was a part of streetscape, so we made the decision, and so I'm thinking we can make this decision as we have the other streetscape phases.
Franny, your cost, is that including labor or is that just material?
Just material.
Is there anticipation that when these brackets come off, we might need to touch up those poles?
I would imagine there would be some.
Is that,
Sure.
is that included in this or
No.
not?
No,
Do you expect that to be, well, it's anybody's guess, okay.
yeah.
But I'm just thinking of how many years the wind has whipped those brackets. I doubt they're in the same original spot that they were inserted, but,
The mounting of them could have scratched the paint on the poles.
yeah, and maybe that's minimal, you know, in the grand scheme of things here, but it's just it was a question I was gonna ask. You know, Laverne, to your point, you know, I first learned about this about a week or so ago, and it was kind of the first question I asked Jeff that, you know, that it was raised, and then I asked Tom when he came in tonight, you know, what's the sentiment downtown, and didn't, excuse me if I'm, but it was the first you heard of it, correct?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and this isn't, you know, I'm speaking just not on behalf of the
I get
business
it.
owners and
Yep.
not on behalf of the chamber.
yeah,
So you would be able to
Officially.
survey, I'm sure you have all these people on your emails, mass email. You would be able to give a,
Membership, yes.
you could send out an email, you know, city's thinking about doing this, give me your response.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Not everybody's a member.
No.
As a
Yeah,
business
we would
owner.
just,
Hmm.
but we could certainly reach out to non-members.
you know,
But they are city-owned.
if,
This
you
is-
know, if you got a lot of businesses want to keep them, then we need to listen to that. But if it's the other way, we need to listen to that too.
I've only heard negative from the public
I haven't heard a thing.
over the years. Laverne, yeah, just here and there, people say it's
think you
time
would-
for them to go.
I think the city would need to look at the overall cost of bringing them all up to the same color then, you know, what is it gonna take to, you know, make them look like they need to look? Then we would need to have another conversation about, you know, what do they need to look like then as you showcase the city?
Yeah,
For RAGBRAI, but not only for RAGBRAI, but just every day.
yeah. Well, and how many signs did we count?
71.
71 that we'd have to replace, and then put in the man hours. So we'd have the labor, the materials, the man hours, all of that. And then do we poll them about the color they want? I mean, this could go on and on. And as we mentioned in the memo, that, you know, it'd be good to make a decision, get it handled before all the events start happening. And to consider the city employees' time and how long it would take to get them down. So, I mean, it would take some time.
How many businesses rely on that sign that's their only thing they have up?
I couldn't answer that question. I mean, I think everyone has signage downtown.
And did this all just get spurred because of RAGBRAI? Because I'm just throwing this out as a business
No,
owner. I mean, there's
and-
a lot of stuff, like you just said. It was really, it's disappointing that you really don't care about the business owners. You
I
just
wouldn't say,
do what you do.
I can say that's not true on my
I'm
part.
not saying that. I'm repeating what Carolyn said. We just didn't ask them. We didn't care. We just did it and dealt with it.
I think the concern, yeah, I can speak for myself,
Yeah.
definitely. And for those of us in the chamber office, it was looking at this and thinking, this really looks cluttered. And there's so many different colors. It aesthetically is not good anymore.
I'm not disagreeing.
It served a
You can look at
purpose maybe, but
Pretty nails is probably the longevity of, with Eckerman's and brass, or the buckle. Those are the longest ones down there right now. So, yeah, I understand that they all mismatch, but to
Right.
take them down and then not let business owners get an opportunity to say, hey, I like them, I don't like them, that doesn't feel right to me. And I'm a business owner downtown, so I think it'd be best to ask them first before you go taking their signage away. Some of them might like it.
Yeah, Kimberly, do you, well, maybe you weren't in your position, but when, you know, the canopies were
Right,
taken
right,
down and we were
yeah.
doing the urban renewal, the business owners were told, we didn't poll them, they were told that they were to put up some kind of canopy and signage. And that, you know, we wanted things to pretty much blend together. And then there was I remember there was a controversy about colors. And there was one color out on Highway 30 that people were upset about, but it all got handled very well. But they were told, okay, this is what we're going to do with the streetscape. You figure out your own brand, your own colors, but things need to fit together. So we've never, I know I sound heartless, that's because I really, these, in my opinion, it's, I would be surprised if people miss them, but
Well, at the end of the day also, I mean, we've
we
talked about
pay
this.
for it.
We've talked about this in the past, signage in general in the city of Carroll, not just downtown. But we've talked about, when we went through the study with Iowa State, the signage over by the rec center, just the parks, everything in general. A large percentage of it doesn't match and it doesn't look the same. And so part of that study was redoing all of that signage at some point. So taking these down doesn't necessarily mean that it's down forever. It just means we're taking them down now to clean it up. Hopefully we'll have some discussion about what that signage could and should look like in the future for other places in town. And let's make it look appropriate and right for our city. If we put them back up, let's make it all look right and match and professional versus just this sign here and that sign there. So it would take some time to put them back up, but I think taking them down at the moment, I agree. I don't know that I understand where you're coming from, but I think they weren't there before and we didn't ask if anybody wanted them. We just put them
No,
up. And
right.
so, you know, we should get to the point where we can do what we can for those businesses downtown, but they gotta do their own signage as well. I'm just talking as a town as a whole. Hopefully we can get that done sooner than later. Probably not before RAGBRAI, but, so I think you're right, it has not everything to do with
It would be
RAGBRAI,
a
but.
start.
right, it's not all about RAGBRAI.
No.
Yeah, right.
That certainly is a catalyst to make us do things
Sure.
and things like that, but it certainly is not all about
No,
RAGBRAI.
no, but we were talking about the baseball. When we did this, we didn't know about RAGBRAI when we were,
We have great opportunities ahead of us to showcase our city.
yeah.
State baseball, RAGBRAI, and on, so, but it does look cluttered and the different colors of the yellow, aren't good. And we need to work towards, something, whether it be, in my opinion, it would be to take them down and just have a much more clean look and let the businesses showcase their logos and their own signage. But that again, that's my opinion. That's not the Carroll Chamber of Commerce's opinion. So,
We also don't have it in the budget right now, so, right, it wouldn't be something we could do immediately anyway. I mean, which, it's gonna take some time to have some conversation about signage for the city, so there's no reason to rush into it.
Yeah, that was a question I had for Randy, would you anticipate this being able to be absorbed in your maintenance line or whatever line suitable for fiscal year '23?
The removals?
Yes,
Yes.
okay. And you've got room, at least take, but certainly no room to put anything else new back up,
Just,
know,
generally, the budgeting is based on the replacements. We, for the last 16 years,
Okay.
been replacing, but it's varied a lot per year.
Yeah,
And we try to
I'll
put
say.
something in the budget to
Right.
try to cover it, but it's worked out okay.
okay.
But nothing to wholesale change 71 signs.
Right.
And the time, I think if we want to go for uniformity throughout the retail area, the corridor, eventually maybe, I don't know, that's the time I think we could bring people in for a workshop and get their opinion on whatever they're thinking, but sorry, Tom and Laverne.
Well, it's
I just
no
think
different.
it needs to be done.
Yeah, I agree. And also you have to be careful when you can ask for, what do you call it? You can ask for people to give you their thoughts and ideas, but you also have to be careful with doing that because no matter where you go, whether it's in your business or your downtown, somebody always will be upset when their opinion isn't taken and the other one is. And so as a city, we have to make the decision to do that. You can get suggestions, but that doesn't mean we have to follow through with them. We have to do what we feel is right as a group here.
Has anybody else fielded any complaints? Carolyn, you said you have.
Over the
But-
years,
but-
people just have noticed what Kimberly has, and I've had people, my friends who live out of town, say, you're getting a little dated down there, and, and it's so cluttered, you don't notice the individual,
Well, maybe my phone will ring off the wall now, but I
don't
mean, I get complaints for far less things. I mean, that's,
Yeah,
I've just
well,
never heard this one before. I've never.
About the signs?
And I stroll down there several times a week, and of course, I'm a guy, and I guess I didn't notice the colors didn't match, but
Oh. Yeah, I mean, it was brought up in the corridor 2.0.
that's a bad thing, being a guy. so.
That this is
I
everything.
notice a lot of things now.
Do you? It's kind of
It's
funny.
December 6th.
Yeah. I remember being up on the hill, and I'm going, are we ever going to clean that up over there? And the guys would go, what? it's the same type of thing. And I understand aesthetics, and just a clean, fresh look to things. But gosh, I don't know. I'm just out of touch, aren't I?
I don't know, you get out to other towns, this isn't happening.
I just wish they were the same color, if anything, and you can't. So it'd be nice if they just matched, so.
Well, let's make a decision then. I mean, you're going to need a motion to do this.
Until I get feedback from the businesses. What if it's 80% of the people want it? And we decide to take it down?
Well, then,
And if it's 80% of the people that don't want it,
Yep.
then
what's the worry about?
I'm okay with delaying
Trying to
it
get a
for-
feedback.
Yeah, I'm good with, but I think there's some interest in moving forward with
Yes,
it.
there
But I
is.
get it, but.
I mean, how long will it take to hear back from these business owners? I mean, something that you can hear back in 2 weeks?
Yeah, you know how it is when you survey people, when you send out a survey, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
But guys, what are you gonna do when you do survey them? And reading of this last week was the first I've seen of it, so I didn't know Carolyn and them were all looking at it. I've just seen it myself from time to time being downtown, but what are you gonna do when you do survey them and that percentage comes back and says yes, but they look like crap? Like, what are we gonna do then? Because we don't have the funds to replace 71 of them to make them all look the same. I'm saying if the signs are needed and that's what they want, then let's try to get to that position, but can we please take them down while they look like crap? So we can try to make things look better and try to get to that good-looking spot. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
Randy, do you take them down or you just pull that insert out?
Well, I think the request is to take the sign and the bracket down.
So
Is my understanding.
my only worry would be is, okay, now you have labor taking everything down. People do want them, then you're putting the things back up.
Which ones look bad? Where are we going with which ones look so bad we need to go on with this project? All of them?
There's a handful
So
of
when
them.
you,
They
Randy,
look
when a
multiple-
business changes,
3-4
and you gotta
different
replace
colors.
that sign, do you take that whole bracket down, or you just change the insert?
Just the
Change the
insert.
insert.
Yeah,
Just
so
the
that
sign
doesn't
light.
take very long.
Well,
Not really.
you're assuming that if we go to different signage at some point, that they will want a little tiny sign on a big bracket. They
Yeah,
may
we don't
not.
know.
They may want something different. So that's the time to, run it past the business people. And you know what? If they want to keep it, I say they should pay for it. The labor and the sign.
Vicky, you have a word?
Number 5 on here is the one that bothers me a lot, as well as the fading yellow ones, is the fact that there's that big black C. And that to me just says, look, this is an empty storefront. There's no business here. And I think that's sending a wrong message too, as far as Carroll being a vibrant, kind of progressive community, that all of a sudden we have all these Cs around Penny's and other places around town. I just think that's not wonderful. Plus, I think we're blocking a lot of our historic buildings that are still down there, and even the ones that were rehabbed or rebuilt during urban renewal would look a lot better without all of this stuff in front of it. And just one other comment, that those signs across by the mall, in the original pictures that I've got on my computer, the background wasn't yellow, it was a kind of a tan color. So it doesn't have to be Carroll on a yellow background, it could be on something else.
I just think there's gotta be some more thought put to this before we run and jump and take out all the signs. I don't see the high importance of it right now, but who am I? Just a business guy.
Randy,
so.
how long would it take the city to get these down if the council decides to do it?
Oh, it would probably take a few days
Okay.
to do it.
Well, you could take the sleeve out to begin with, just to remove the color. And then you could go back and see how many complaints we had and remove the brackets later. I don't know.
I say rip the Band-Aid off.
They're not gonna be doing it when it's cold out anyways, I
No.
don't think. So we got a little bit of time.
This would be a better time to do it. A day like today.
Yeah,
They could get a
but-
lot done. And, early in the spring, likely, when you can't get on the road to do patching work or anything like that, it would likely be the better time for that street department to do that. So,
Well, let's make a decision.
Okay,
You
I'm
know,
gonna make the
and whether or not
motion that,
Want to do it or not, so.
we remove the central business district business signs as well as the brackets.
Okay? There's a motion,
I'll second it.
and there is a second, to remove the central business signs and brackets.
Correct,
To authorize the streets department to do so.
correct.
Okay? There is a motion and a second to that effect. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Bauer,
No,
Base,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes,
Dirks,
No.
Fordnero,
No.
motion fails.
Okay. So the protocol on that is the matter can't come back up for another 6 months? Is that,
I don't think,
is there
Dave, I think,
still kind of a
isn't the
rule on that?
winning side able to bring it back up?
Yeah, it could be reconsidered at the next meeting,
Okay,
I think if we
if
have,
so voted.
okay.
So we could still do the same thing. We could put something in my weekly report. It'll hopefully show up in the press. Maybe Kimberly
I
can
would like
send out an email
Come out.
and ask for input prior to the February 27th meeting. And
The
reconsider.
protocol is you can revote it at this meeting if somebody decides to change their mind, or the next meeting, but then after that, it's 6 months.
Okay.
So what did this originally cost to do this idea?
Well, it's
Does anybody know?
about $20,000.
No, that's
Or
just
what-
maintenance.
No.
No, the original cost to do this on a streetscape
It says
project.
historical annual expenditures.
Yeah, that's just to
Replacement,
replace them. That's the
repair,
original
maintenance.
replacement of all
the
of them.
initial,
Just the original cost, what was this
You'd have to go
cost?
clear back to,
it was over a period of a few different phases, and we haven't pulled that number out yet.
So this is one of the things, and I talked a little bit with Carolyn on the way out today, was when we did these projects, the long-term effects kind of weren't thought about on some of this stuff. and take into consideration streetscape with trees and bushes and everything. Somebody has to take care of them on the city side.
Sure.
So, and I would just wonder if any of that was ever factored in, or the mess that it leaves. You know, we've talked about it in our district down here. It's just, every time you go out during the fall, you gotta blow away all the leaves, you know? And somebody's still gotta take care of the bushes, plant flowers and everything else. This was just a cost that should have been associated with it to keep this project going. So, I don't know, I'm just a no on it, but that's my 2 cents worth.
Okay, let's move on. Anything else?
Well, I'm willing to bring it back up if we can get a survey in 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay. We will move to item B, 7B, and that is, thank you, Court Street LLC tax abatement request.
Okay.
And that's Jeff.
Adam is here with us tonight. I'll go for just a second and we'll have you come up and walk us through what you're planning to do. But everyone who's here tonight was on the council on August 8th. This came before the council as a discussion item. Adam and his partners are looking at renovating the building at 502 North Court Street, which is directly kitty corner across the street from the library. They're planning to, they've already gutted the building. They're planning to make one 3-bedroom, 5 1-bedroom, 6 2-bedroom apartments there. And the request from Adam and his group is for a 10-year, 100% abatement on the increased value of the property. Laura had talked to Cindy over at the assessor's office recently, and the value of the building itself as of January 1st, 23 was $127,780. Obviously, this is going to take an enormous amount of money. Currently, our tax abatement schedule allows for the first $75,000 of improvement to be abated at 100% for a period of 5 years. Adam's request is for a period of 10 years at 100%. And the city does have the ability to adopt a different abatement schedule, but it has to be under certain circumstances. And we've spoken with Nathan Overberg at Allers and Cooney about this a couple of times. So the first thing that has to happen is if the council does desire to adopt a different abatement schedule, we have the ability to do so, but whatever is decided upon would have to apply to all other similarly classified properties. So in this case, what we're classifying as multi-residential, 3 units and above. If that decision is made to reclassify that group of properties, initially, it would have to apply citywide unless the city decided to carve out a different area, and the options were somewhat limited there. If you used the entire urban renewal district, which basically extends from Bella Vista out by the fire station to the west end of town by the junction of 30 and 71, we could make a new urban revitalization area that would completely overlap the existing urban renewal area. And in that case, we could adopt a higher or a different abatement schedule, but then all similarly classified properties to Adams would be eligible for the same abatement. When the council spoke about this last August, they talked about carving out a smaller district in the downtown area, and Laura's going to put a picture of that up there now. And what you'll see in the yellow highlight on this diagram is the area that was walked by 3 of the council members and Mike Pogge Weaver. And that was the area that they initially had thought about making this new urban revitalization area. The black lines that you see on this diagram are the parts of the existing urban renewal area, and you'll see that it's open on the east and the west ends there because it does extend further west and further east. The area that is hash marked in red is outside of the current urban renewal area, so you could not basically make the new urban revitalization area within those parameters that you have there, because it's not a complete overlap of the existing urban renewal. So a number of things have to be decided upon, and essentially what we're looking for is direction. One, if the council has a desire to adopt a different schedule, do you want it to be a 10-year, 100% abatement? Are you looking more at a 10-year sliding scale abatement? And if so, would you like to have it citywide? Would you rather have it just be in the urban renewal area? Or would you like to do a carved out area? Once we get that direction, then we'll work with our attorney to see what we have to do to make it work. One of the discussions that was had earlier today with some of the council members, there was some discussion about extending the northern boundary of the yellow marks there of the urban renewal district, or excuse me, the black mark of the urban renewal district and the yellow mark for the urban revitalization to include 8th Street. And essentially what we would do is capture the Neeland apartments the city doesn't quite own yet, but is supposed to relatively soon, as well as a number of other potential properties in that area that could qualify for this abatement schedule. So I guess with that, Adam, I know that's fairly complex. Would you like to add to the discussion about what you're planning to do or your timeline or how this might benefit your project?
Sure. Ultimately, you've kind of got it in my memo that I supplied, but the project's going to be substantial, and we are applying for Iowa workforce housing tax credits, as well as putting the building on the National Historical Registry and applying for state and federal historical tax credits. And part of those applications are going to require us to also get letters of support from businesses and the city that this is a good project that relates to housing and a need for housing in the area. And then we're also going to need to show some local contribution as we apply for those grants. I guess they grade them, or they put value to everything that you can put into your application. It's going to get a little bit higher value. Ultimately, I'm just kind of following the same process with this as we did with our project in Jefferson. So in Jefferson, we had the local 10-year abatement on the property. They also had a facade improvement grant that helped with some local contribution, and their economic development group also helped us with acquiring the property from an absentee landowner in Seattle, so that we could actually even get the property bought. So they had a few different things that they were able to help us with there. Here, we totally understand we don't really have anything else to really come and ask for. And so the only thing we're really asking for at this point is just the tax abatement. And the tax abatement does also help with the business plan as a whole. These things take quite a bit of time. Jefferson's property was unique just in the fact that we did it during COVID, so that delayed a lot of things as well. But, we're coming up on 3 years owning that property, and we just finally opened in June of this last year. So it's, we've still got, I think, 5 units that we've got to get filled over there. So these things do take time. You've got to get the building, the whole project done, and then you got to get it full. So the abatement does help in that regard too, as far as the business plan is concerned.
Adam, do you have an estimated timeline on, I know you've gutted the building, construction, completion, that type of thing?
Well, we haven't officially totally gutted it. We cleaned 21 tons of garbage from it.
That's it?
We haven't removed.
There's 21 to go, huh?
Yeah. So there's quite a bit of walls that are probably going to have to be moved around, and some flooring and drop ceiling and a number of other things still to come out of the building. So we're going to try to be as aggressive as we can on the turn. But it's probably going to be a good 18 months. And we don't believe that we're going to be able to start until June or July. So it depends upon how much we can get accomplished in the fall before it gets cold. And then, try to get done what we can throughout the winter, and then get back into spring, summer, and see where we end up sometime the following fall or what have you. So that's kind of what the timetable is looking like right now.
And you mentioned in your letter to the city that you're anticipating an outlay of about $1.8 million. And I know that doesn't translate directly to increased value of the property, but do you have any guesstimates on what you think the assessed value of the property might be when you're done?
I don't pretend to know anything about how those assessors come up with their valuations.
Okay.
It's all over the place on that.
One thing that we did, just a shot in the dark, and we realized it's not accurate. Do you have that spreadsheet? We did one that showed an $800,000 increase just to see what it looked like. And I say we, Laura did it. With direct supervision.
Yes.
Are you talking with another property here in town?
No, with this one, we assumed an $800,000 increase in value. We showed what the current abatement schedule would be, and if I remember correctly, Laura, it was about $58,000. And then double that for a 10-year abatement. Did you find it?
Yeah, I'm just trying to
Okay.
get it to come up on your screens. No, it's not coming up.
Yeah, the current abatement schedule would be $58,544, and the requested would be $117,088. And then we threw in a sliding scale just to see what it looked like. If we did 5 years at 100, 2 at 75, 2 at 50, and 1 at 25, it's a $90,000 or $743. So I guess for discussion purposes, what's the council's thoughts on the 10-year abatement?
You know, I look at a property like that, and then the Nealon property too. I actually walked through that when they were having an open house. That thing's gonna need a lot of work, similar to what this thing probably does too. And on a police standpoint, I mean, that place was full of problem tenants, and you know, we could continue to have that, or we have something aggressive like this and have nice housing with no problems. So.
Yeah, I agree.
It's checking all the boxes. We want to attract people and grow our population. We want more housing, and we need workers. And I think carving out an area, and Jeff, refresh my memory, did you say going north
Yeah.
to 8th Street?
Well, we drove it after we spoke
Yeah.
this morning, and then we looked at the zoning map too. It looks like if we went up to 8th and started at Main and went over to Simon, that butts up directly to another chunk of the
Yeah.
urban renewal area. It's cleaner. It'll cost a little bit of money and a little bit of time to go through the process, but we would incorporate the Raker building, or whatever it's
Yeah,
pronounced.
Raker, yeah.
The Nealon property would be a beneficiary of it, as well as we saw a few others that may, in this new area, would apply. There's some other existing, like your McNabb building, conceivably would be within this district. And if you guys ever get done with this project and have a notion to do another one, this could conceivably qualify for that as well.
I like Kyle's word aggressive. I think doing the 10-year, 100,000, I mean, we would be, it'd be like 10,000 a year that it would cost the city.
Yeah, and now the one thing that our attorney did say, if you do elect to try to carve out a smaller area, we have to identify planning reasons when portions of the urban renewal area would not be eligible. And we'll work with him, if that's the direction the council decides to go, to try to come up with a planning statement that's palatable and will qualify for the intent of the state code. I don't think it's gonna be a big problem, but that is one thing that we would have to do.
Yeah, I went back, I'll keep it quick. I went back to our agenda item, November 4th of 2021, when we carved out just that little area to include the villa. But it also, our rationale, it was ability to fund Adams Street. When we carved out, we did the proposed 7th Amendment, amended and restated urban renewal plan for the Central Business District, Adams Street, downtown housing grants, grants for facades. I mean, it opened up more opportunities. So carving out this area, as you stated, and offering what Adam is asking, And it keeps people downtown. It's gonna keep our downtown vibrant. I think it's a great opportunity, and Kyle's use of the word aggressive, I think we will benefit.
One of the things that we thought about using if Nathan Orrig approves is this upstairs housing grant that's available, and the notion that there are some other properties like above the Buckle and I think Anderson Shoes, the McNabb Building. There's a number, not a whole lot of them, but a number of properties within the downtown area, this area that we're talking about carving out, that potentially could benefit from this if the owners of the buildings decided
The mixed
they wanted to do something. So those are the questions that we need to answer tonight. It sounds like I'm hearing a consensus for a 10-year abatement at 100%. Is it a consensus of the council that you'd like to at least look at the idea of carving out this area? Laura, can you put that one map back up with the nice red cross hatch on it? What we would probably look at doing then, the black line on the top, we would have to jag it north at Main Street to 8th and then over to Simon to connect this new part of an urban renewal district with the old part. We would take the yellow line at the top and extend it northward as well, so it coincides directly with the urban renewal area. We'd have to carve out the red hatched area because it does not completely overlap. And if you'll look at that, that particular area, there really aren't any properties within that area that I think are going to qualify. The one thing that you might want to do, that little jag in the black on the very bottom, we might want to take the urban revitalization area, the yellow, and follow that black line. Well, actually, we would have to, I believe, Laura, so that there's a complete overlap of the revitalization and the urban renewal.
I mean, it's still all within the same area, so you wouldn't have to, but you could. But you're still within that urban renewal area. The urban renewal area just extends down further, either way.
Well, the way he said though, the two have to completely overlap each other. That's why we're carving out the red hatched mark.
Right, well, okay. Yeah, we can get clarification.
So if everybody's in agreement, we can start that ball rolling with Nathan Overberg. Is there anybody who's not, or?
We're 1 month from a new city manager that has done a lot of this stuff.
I talked to him for an hour about this morning, and I sent him all of the diagrams, the memos, and then we spoke about it after he'd had a chance to look at them, and he was completely on board.
Thank you for doing that.
One thing too on this, I think when people think of a tax abatement, they're thinking, okay, the taxes are gone completely, or they're forgiven. Well, it's just on the increased value, and we're already not getting anything out of it.
Yeah,
It's just gonna
not
be
costing the city,
a
it's just delaying
gain,
it.
a gain for
Delayed
future.
benefit, yeah.
So,
It's a delayed benefit.
yeah.
There will be some costs, however, to set it up though, correct? And, this actually came up long before, well, I guess you'd made your request months ago, but I mean, in the recent discussions, but I'm having a little bit of concerns about the OPM project. We've spent a couple $1,000s setting that development agreement up. And if that thing falls out of bed, then we're left holding the bag on it. And I guess, I would want the council just to consider, as we, address projects like this one and others, that we have some type of agreement in place with the developer that in the unlikely event that it would fall out of bed, that the city get reimbursed for those fees, because it's, I'm not wishing that it's gonna happen. I don't want it to happen, but I mean, they have said, we're gonna wait on this for a while. And if the conditions don't improve or they don't get, the environment in which they're wishing to move forward, then we just blew a couple $1,000s in a development agreement for nothing. And I would just like the council to be in consideration of that. And I think any developer would probably agree that that's only fair. Or not. You're the developer.
I'm unique.
Okay, you're unique.
I'm very unique in the fact that I spend a couple $1,000s of my own money on every project.
Yeah.
To have at least some pretty pictures drawn up.
Right.
To do a little bit of an environmental study if I need to, to have some architectural numbers thrown at stuff. So I pay for that stuff up front
Oh,
before
and-
I ever even think
yeah.
about buying a property.
Yeah.
So I feel like you gotta spend it's like every other little small business. If you're gonna start something, you gotta put a little skin in the game and figure out exactly whether or
Yeah.
not it's the right business plan
Yeah.
because
And
you
I
wanna be
believe,
sure.
I believe you have full intentions of moving ahead. with
Oh,
it.
yeah, we're,
But-
we're definitely.
But
moving
things
forward.
do happen too, you know,
Yeah.
something happens and, you know, God forbid, you know, something happens to any of the players involved and that sort of thing. You know, I would like to have the city have some type of consideration. You've sat in this chair too, and I think you'd agree with me that the city needs to have some type of consideration in these types of things.
So what's it cost monetarily to get all this stuff done? Are you saying like?
Couple of grand,
propose
that's what it
fees
costs with
and then Adams
OPM.
Group pays for it?
Yeah, and the overlay, the way I understood that you're proposing, you know, I think Nathan had said that would take, that's probably not necessarily the most difficult to do, but a little time consuming, and when we're talking attorneys, time is $450 an hour.
I think we have to have some public hearings and
Oh, yeah,
publication. and-
definitely.
And
I think there might be like a 30-day response period.
that's why we're hoping to get some direction so that we can get that time clock started and.
Yeah,
But what you guys are doing here is really setting the stage for all future development for the district.
Absolutely.
So, I mean,
Right.
it's one of those things where it's kind of that it's beneficial to the city to go through this process now. We just happen to be the ones to bring you the first example to kind of set the stage and make the decision for kind of a long-term plan, so.
and it took me right to my next question. When you did, I call it the Morrison's, the Walgreens apartments,
Yeah, Morrison
Morrison.
Apartments.
When you did those, that kind of propelled the council into our existing abatement program, kind of.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, so I guess it's setting the stage, how the
Seem to be the
council's.
first ones to bring anything
Yeah,
up all the time.
so what's
yeah.
different, what's so much different about this situation than the Morrison Street? I mean, it was kind of a wreck too.
Yep, so more units at Morrison, and we were able to do less dollars at the time. Now we have less units and more dollars. And so it's really gonna be important for us to work as many angles as we can, because that building was 20 units and ended up being a little over $1.2 million at the time.
Okay.
And this is gonna be 12 units and about 1.8 million. So, time has just changed
That's what-
things significantly.
that's what 3 or
Well, and
4
this-
years
And this
does.
project is gonna be significant too, because we're putting it on the historical registry. We're really trying to make sure we restore the outside of the building so
Okay.
that it looks like it did in 1929 when the Anmar building was built. So that's removing a significant amount of the existing brick, but we have to preserve it because we have to fill gaps that exist now that shouldn't be there. We have to increase the size of every single window around the building to match all of the historical significance. The initial lobby, we've pulled up the tile that's over the terracotta flooring on the initial lobby. And now we've been researching what the initial vestibule to the second floor looked like. We have to restore all of that so it looks like it did in 1929. Then we go back on the outside of the building, even we have to put the old wrought iron underneath a couple of the windows and the doors to match. We've got a bunch of stone and plaster type decor that's on the outside of the building that has to be totally molded and redone. So it's just a different project, certainly, than what we did there.
Okay.
There we were able to clean out all of the units, put in new flooring, new cabinets, new plumbing, new electric, but we really didn't change the footprint of any of the units. And we were able to just kind of treat the outside of the building, but we didn't have all these historical
Sure.
hurdles.
But to
So,
summarize, that's what changes the ask.
yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
to essentially double
Well,
it.
and
Yep.
all the experts, like his hiring the historian, et cetera, that's tens of thousands of dollars just for it. And then the National Park Service has, like a document that's like 100 pages long that specifies precisely what you do to restore. And sometimes it's hard to find those experts to restore like the cornices and things like that. So I admire him for jumping in because it's going to be highly regulated by the National Park Service and to get it on the National Register.
Okay.
So-
One last question is, in your memo, it addresses some parking considerations the council's gonna have to be flexible on down the road. Can you outline that for the council? And then while Brad and Randy are here, if you guys wouldn't mind hearing this and any concerns you might have, but you want to explain that
Yeah,
too. I drove over and looked, and I mean, everybody seems to park where they want, but
Right.
what,
One of the things that I had talked to Mikey Poggy Weaver about is that Fifth Street between Clark and Court right now seems to kind of be an okay spot for people to park. And while it's might be marked, don't park between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. I don't even think it's marked there. So I think we've kind of been okay in that area. One of the things that I and he talked about is to be able to possibly swing around the corner and run Court Street down in front of the McNabb building so that we had more parking around that front. Now, things have kind of changed a little bit in the fact that we acquired the building, the Carroll building.
yeah, that,
And the Carroll building has got underground parking in the basement of that building that we're going to be upgrading. So we think we can get about 12 parking spots there for the people that would live in these 12 new apartment units. So I might not have as much of a need to work with the city on that, but when we talked, he felt like there was something we could come up with, especially just during snow removal, where if our tenants would park on this side on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and this side on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we could make sure that they were alternating, then it would be able to still allow for snow removal, and we could be, like, the city might be able to work with us on that, just because you gotta go somewhere with all these folks in these cars. And when we bought the McNabb building, the tenants there primarily did not drive. And so there wasn't as much of a need for parking, but as things have progressed and we've taken the building from about 22% vacancy down to closer to 0, and we now have people that drive a lot, we just have a lot more needs for cars.
so Adam, are you envisioning like reserved parking for those tenants?
Not reserved, just
Okay.
that they wouldn't be ticketed and that we would be able to work out an agreement so that we can get snow removal done and we're not a burden to the city, but we're communicating to our tenants and our tenants are then working with the city to make sure that their vehicles are out of the way and things can be properly taken care of.
Okay. Any comments, concerns?
I think snow removal would be the biggest concern. You know, I drove down through there when we got 8 inches of snow, and there was one car parked on the south side of the clinic building who hadn't moved, and it was tight getting through there because the windrow in the middle of that road was huge. You know, so those are probably not the normal, but they do occur. And to address those somehow, to take care of it, if it's alternate side parking on alternate days or whatever it is, of course, then you're sending your crew down there 2 days in a row, where we cleaned it up in one, an 8-inch snowfall. So you really have to consider that. And then if we start looking again on a more global picture of how we'll handle it if they go ahead with above Anderson shoes and above the buckle. And so gets to be a larger problem that you want to look at on an entire downtown basis on how that would be handled. And if it is alternate side parking, then you're doubling up your snow removal time spent to come down the next night, pull that snow out, load it. So, you know, those are realities that are going to happen. Not that they can't be done, but just that they're going to cost more. You know, that's kind of the bottom line. And they take more time. And our guys ran a long time in that 8-inch snow. And if they had to go back, the next night to re-clean the other side of the street, those would have been long 2 days, you know. So that's just the reality of it.
But as I said, I'm working on trying to alleviate the problem myself as best I possibly can with acquisition of this other property and renovations of it, so.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want
Guess
there
we
to be a
can kinda
conflict
Cross that bridge when we
later
come
on,
to
and,
it.
yeah,
For
or,
now,
yeah.
we'll forge forward.
okay.
I think we've got our marching orders, if I've heard everybody correctly.
Well, do you need a motion or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, we're just gonna,
No. We'll just wing it.
Well, thank you guys very much for your time, and I appreciate this. Thank you.
thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam. Say, Adam, I noticed you were here a little bit earlier than 6:14. Did you, your cruise malfunction, or?
Well, the state troopers were nice enough to give me a total way into town.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Okay, we bounced around a little bit.
I think that was the
I think
last
that was
item.
the last thing. So I see committee reports, they're listed. Comments from the mayor, I have none. Comments from the city council? None. Comments from the interim city manager?
No, thank you.
Okay, then I would seek a motion to adjourn. Tom, and was that Kyle?
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Base,
Yes?
Jerks, Ordinary.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.